Hi, welcome to Circular Flow Model Lecture. Today we are going to talk about the circular flow model. So please pull out your circular flow organizer and we will go through this together. Circular flow is a concept in which it shows how households, businesses, and governments interact. This is a model that I kind of pioneered myself. I came up with the triangle because I feel it's much simpler than other circular flow models you might see and those you might see in college. So I tried to make it as easy to understand as possible. So I created a triangle to use it. So we're dealing with two elements here. One is that there is a physical market or physical goods, and then there are monetary goods. So we're either dealing with things which are touchable or physical and things which are monetary. So among those two things, we will take a look at the different types of interactions that households and businesses have to begin. So we look at this. What does a household actually give to a business? Well, physically they give labor. And by giving labor, they are able to, highlight this for you, by giving labor, the people are providing the actual human capital or labor to a business. Now, what also do they give to businesses is money for products. So what households give to businesses, one is labor, and secondly is money for products. So when we look at what businesses give households, businesses in return provide either products or services like couches, food, doctors, things like that. And then what they give to the households is actually the money for the labor. So a doctor may employ office staff, medical recorders, and other nurses that work for him, so he gives them money for their labor. So in this scenario, between these two, we can see that businesses give to households products and money for labor. Households give to the business money for products and the labor. So take a moment to write that down. Make sure you have that in there. Now, secondly, we'll take a look at what households give to the government. Now, this is the time when we need to discuss the fact that the U.S. government is both the largest employer and consumer in the United States. The U.S. government employs more people than anybody. When you look at the U.S. government, the state governments, even the school districts are all government employees, as are postal workers, road workers. All these people are basically employed by the government. Also, the U.S. government and the state governments consume a ton of products. Everybody always thinks of tanks and machine guns and things like that. Very few people think of toilet paper. Think of how much toilet paper is actually consumed in our school alone. We have about 16 bathrooms, and each bathroom would have 2 to 3 stalls. Think of the amount of toilet paper consumed alone in our school. Think about the amount of soap used in the school, paper towels. It doesn't necessarily have to be things like tanks and helicopters. We can think about things like coffee makers and coffee filters and ink pens and whiteout and printer paper. When we start to look at that consumed by the U.S. government, the number becomes astronomical. So, what do we as people give to the government? Well, one is labor, and I've said they're both the largest employer and consumer. So as somebody that hires the U.S. government, I actually work for the people of Mount Morris. So, and I'm sure many of you parents may work for the state of Michigan or the city of Mount Morris or city of Flint, what have you. Also, what we provide monetarily to the government is money in the form of taxes. So we provide both labor and money for taxes to the U.S., state, or even local governments. So what does the government necessarily give us? Well, we can say that they provide services. Things like police protection, things like garbage pickup, road service, schools are a government service, postal service, things like that. Now, What else they give us is money for labor. So any of your parents that work for the government, any form of schools, the government, the Postal Service, all make their money from the government. So to review real quick, in this relationship, we can look at households give government labor and money for taxes, and the government gives us services and then money for labor. Lastly is the interaction between government and business. So let's take a look at first at what the businesses provide to the government. Well, pretty much the same thing they provide to us, which is products. Like I said, the government is the largest consumer in the United States, so toilet paper manufacturers, coffee manufacturers, people that create computers like Dell and Apple, they provide large amounts of these to the U.S. government. Also, businesses pay taxes. They pay even more taxes than the average U.S. citizens. There are things like corporate taxes and things like that, business taxes. So they pay taxes to the United States government for these things that the government provides, which is services. As far as services are concerned, think about it. Who's going to call the police more in Mount Morris? You or Subway? Subway is probably going to make an infinite amount of more police calls than you are. Also, there's a much greater chance that there's a fire at Subway or any, let's say, Little Caesars than at your house. So actually, the services are used much more by businesses than you or I. Also, government will also provide money for products to businesses. So when the paper manufacturers bring those reams of printer paper or the paper towels, the government pays the businesses for that. So, in review, what we can say here is that the businesses provide products and money for taxes to the government, and the government provides services and money for products. All right, I will see you in class where we will be ready to do an in-class circular flow scenario where we're going to talk about whether the actions by these actors are going to actually speed up or slow down the process. Thank you and have a great evening.